We just did this a couple nights ago, didn't we? Days ago. So, go ahead, guys.
Shootout week, year 2, does it mean anything different? Does it feel any different this year now that you've experienced a year of what it was like?
Yeah, I don't know if I've thought that deeply about it relative to last year, but it's different when you have some type of perspective and experience. And as I've mentioned this a number of times, it's as big time a game as we have in college basketball. Been really fortunate to be a part of some really, really cool rivalries and really cool games, and it's as good, if not better, than any game I've ever been a part of in terms of just what it means to people in the community and the energy in the building, and that was on the road last year. So that's the perspective. It's not just something you've heard about, it's something you've experienced. We certainly didn't play well last year, so that's kind of stuck with us for a long time. So I hope we play better basketball, and I'm certainly really excited to see what the environment's like here in Clifton.
It's to me the first one at Fifth Third Arena since 2018 with like a full capacity crowd. I think that's the last time Cincinnati won too. Have people talked to you about that? Have you talked to the players about that? This is going to be the first one in a few years for these fans. We
haven't. I mean, we yesterday we got back in the gym, get back in the weight room. Watched film of Bryant, got on the floor and did what we do. We won't start our preparation with the team for Xavier until 2 days out, which is consistent with how we treat any game. So we haven't had a ton of conversation about the game yet. But guys, our players, they can feel that. They've been hearing about the Crosstown Shootout, about the Xavier game every day since they arrived here this summer. And, the guys that have been here are aware of it. And so they'll feel the build up and the energy this week.
Is it fair to say you've watched some film on them already? Is that fair?
I have, sure, yeah.
My question is...
we get done with the game and we break down that film, grade it, and then I'll get on to watching the next team. That's consistent too.
So as you're watching them, they've got a new head coach. Their core is pretty much the same, but they've got some new pieces. How are they compared to the team that you faced last year?
I don't know if I've watched enough, Keith, to comment directly on that. I've watched a couple games, watched a little bit Sunday night, couldn't sleep. And I watched a game and a half yesterday. But Coach, I think whatever assistant has the scout, I'm not sure yet, and I'll spend a lot of time tonight and tomorrow, really trying to dive into the scout. But I'm familiar because we played against some of those players, and they're really good players. And I've watched Sean as a coach from a distance for a really long time, and I mean that in a respectful way. I just have so much respect for him as a coach, and his teams, his first time around at Xavier, his teams at Arizona, and I've always tried to study and learn from others, and he's a guy that I've looked at as I got into coaching. So he'll have them ready to play. He's done a nice job in a short period of time with that group so far this year.
I know you mentioned you haven't really had a chance to kind of watch a lot about them, but they bring in Soleil Boom this year, who's really taken
That's the transfer from UTEP.
Yeah, hit the ground running for them. He's a guy who can score, he can pass, he feels passing lanes really well. How do you prepare for a guy like that who can do whatever it takes to win at that position?
Yeah, I've, just from a distance, because if my hobby, when I can't coach and work on our team is to watch basketball. So, I've watched any game that's on TV and passing. I've seen him play. He's a terrific player. Like you said, a guard that can score the basketball, long, covers ground. We'll prepare like we prepare for any good player. We'll try to be alert to his tendencies and try to do a good job preparing our guys. But there's no specific game plan because we're going to see a lot of good players this year, and he's another one of them.
Coach, how important and how beneficial is it to obviously get some run for these younger guys earlier in their career than maybe some of us expected, but it can maybe be that onboarding and that way to get them some run that helps them in year 2, year 3, and really cements their status in the program?
Yeah, well, there's silver lining to any situation, and that's certainly the way that I've always approached coaching and always tried to get our teams to approach it is, you can't control anything that's going to happen. Things happen. That's just life. That's just basketball. But you can't control how you respond to it. And generally, over the course of a season, all kinds of stuff happens, and if you respond the right way to it, it's going to be better for your program, not just long term, but in the short term. And like losing John and losing Rob, those are things that you don't want to happen. They have, but there's good things that come from that, even though they're things you didn't want to happen. And one of the good things is it's given opportunity to younger players, and it's given opportunity for older players to be in different roles. And guys will grow, and our team will grow, and our program will grow if we handle that the right way. So I don't think of, Josh and Dan and Sage getting meaningful minutes right now is just something that's good for 3 years from now. I think about it as something that's good for our team right now, because they're talented, gifted players. They can help our team win, and the more they get out there and get in the fire and make mistakes and learn from them, the better they're going to be. And I do think those guys are going to be great for Cincinnati basketball 3 years from now. I think they're going to be great for Cincinnati basketball this year. And the earlier they get out there, the better.
I got a two-parter, I'm sorry. First part, couple texts on Sunday. You didn't seem to flip out about that. What is your approach as a coach to when a player
Oh,
makes a
technical
yeah,
fouls.
sorry.
They said texts, like
No,
text.
no.
I'm like,
Tease.
what kind of text you referring to? I'm lost. Technical fouls.
Correct, sorry.
And I say this out of great respect for Jared Grasso and Bryant. He's instilled an identity there, a little edgy and, a little wild at times. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because they've embraced it. And I respect anybody that establishes an identity and gets the group to embrace it. But I think they had like 16 technical fouls in their first 6 or 7 games leading into our game. And, they talk a little bit, and you could see that on the tape. And so we tried to prepare our guys for that. Don't get caught up in that. So I knew there would be a little bit of that in the game. I thought we overreacted a couple times, and that's where the technicals come from, right? We lost our discipline a little bit. I don't overreact to that. We just address it, and we have accountability for it. Dan Skillings makes a 3 in the corner. Guys on the other bench were yelling at him, saying whatever players say to players from 3 feet away, and he reacted to what the bench was saying. So we took him out of the game, and that's what we do when somebody gets a technical, especially at this point in the year. Told him we can't do that. And, I'm going to move on. I'm going to be next play. Landers was reacting to something in the game and got a technical for it, so we took him out of the game, and we're accountable for it. And then we sit in film and try to explain why it's important that we have better discipline than that. But I don't think it needs to be something that's a huge scene. You don't have to embarrass a player. Some of the edge that our guys show if they get a technical, I like. We just have to find a way to have edge and discipline at the same time, and it's an opportunity to learn.
The second part, which is obvious, is a very emotional game Saturday. I assume it's even reinforcing that more and more, that you can't let them let the emotions get the best of them.
Yeah, Matt, that's any game. Any game. How competitive can we be? How edgy can we be without losing our discipline? That's what we're talking about every day. And every time you cross that line, it's a chance to teach and learn. And I've learned this in it's been 12 years now as a head coach. It's not about freaking out and embarrassing people. It's about holding people accountable. And we'll have accountability for things like that.
Xavier likes to play 2 bigs a lot. Is that something you look at and think we want to? And I know you're not going to give me the strategy part of it, but you want to.
Yeah, let's just talk about the game.
How do you handle Fremantle and Nunji at the same time?
You have to prepare, right? They're playing traditional, and I say traditional, 2 true post players, because you don't see as much of that anymore. We saw that against Arizona with Tubelis, and I can't remember the big kid's name down low. Yeah, Balo, yeah. So when you see that, it's different than what you're used to, and certainly what we're used to when we guard each other every day, the way we've been playing this year. So you have to prepare. You got to be ready for the physicality. You got to answer the bell on the backboards. And they do a lot of really good things. Again, I haven't dove too far into the scout, but they do a lot of really good things in their half court, to kind of play off of each other. One's out there screening or dribble handoff, while the other one's kind of playing off of them around the basket. And they do a lot of really great. Again, Sean's a great coach. He's played his system for a long, long time, and those guys fit into the things that he's trying to do.
you have 5 or 6 days to prepare for them. Maybe the advantages of that are obvious, but are there some disadvantages to having that much space between games?
Man, you guys always think so much deeper about it than I do. You know, I don't know. I hadn't thought about the advantages and disadvantages. You guys are going to get tired of this. I just think about what do we got to do today to get better. You know, what do we got to do to become a better team? Whatever the standard is for how we prepare for a game, it's going to be that way if we're preparing to play Chaminade or we're preparing to play in the national championship game. There's a standard, and we're going to try to reach it. The Crosstown Shootout's a big-time game. I'll never sit up here and act like it's not a big-time game. It's awesome. I mean, it's like the games you dream about coaching in, games you dream about playing in. We're not going to talk like that behind closed doors and stand in front of you guys and act like that's not the case. I think that's BS. But the standard for how you prepare is the same for any game, and that's what great programs and great teams do, and that's how we'll approach this one.
You mentioned your respect for Sean and what he's been able to do throughout his career. Do you have any of a relationship with him at all? Do you guys have are you guys friendly or?
Enough to say hello, friendly over the years. You know, coaching, guys, is such a small profession. So we all know each other. I mean, I think, gosh, he might have been an assistant at NC State when I was playing. So, you know, come across each other in handshake lines years and years ago, or you're on the road recruiting over the years, you say hello and that type of thing. But no, not a guy that I've been close with or have a great relationship with. But since he's gotten back here to Cincinnati, we've certainly, you know, bumped into each other at events and things of that nature. And again, it's always been very friendly and cordial.
2 more questions?
Talked about it after the Arizona game. The make or transition defense after a make was a struggle. It was a little struggle against Bryant too. What's the problem there? What's the key to fixing that?
Yeah, that's a controllable thing. So certainly the type of thing that's going to drive me crazy, right? That's the stuff I'll go crazy about. You know, we showed some tape of that yesterday, Justin. I think some of it's awesome. Like, we make a 3. I think Jeremiah makes a 3 in our transition offense. And David DeJulius is excited that Jeremiah made a shot. He didn't make the pass to him. He didn't have anything to do with the play other than he ran his lane hard. And he's excited for Jeremiah to make a shot and for our team to score. Micah Adams-Woods is excited on that same play for our team to score. Listen, you got to step back sometimes and go, that's great. There's a lot of selfishness in our game, right? There's a lot of problems amongst teams. We don't have that. We got guys that are excited when their teammates score. That's awesome. So that part I love when you're watching the tape. But my message to our guys is, let's get excited when the clock isn't running. Let's get excited when it's a dead ball. But let's not take away from, hey, it's actually good that our guys are excited when something good happens for our team. There's a lot of teams out there that you watch and a teammate makes a shot and nobody cares because they just are worried they didn't make the shot. We don't have that. We just got to get some more maturity and understanding that we'll have a lot more fun and we can get a lot more excited for each other if we understand the time and the place, and we're still learning how to embrace that type of team mentality, but have those winning habits that we got to wait until the whistle blows and there's a dead ball before we can celebrate with each other. And I think that's the first step. The second step is a crazy sense of urgency to build the right habits to get back and communicate and transition. And, you know, it's burned us in the Arizona game, in a big-time game, even when we were trying. So we got to continue to build those habits in practice. And it'll be a major factor in the Xavier game because they do have an elite running game.
Any chance to contact or get in touch with new football head coach Scott Satterfield since he's been hired?
Met Scott on, it's Tuesday. I met him yesterday, just walking through the hall. He was walking to an event. It wasn't that long ago that I was going through that same day. So I understand how crazy it is. I just met him and his wife and his son, said hello, tried to welcome him to Cincinnati, and tried not to take too much of his time. I've sent him a text, he's responded, and 2 things about that. Number one, I'm thrilled that we have a guy in position. You know, I know you guys are thrilled, so you don't have to try to figure it out anymore. But I'm thrilled for our student athletes on the football team that are still here and still trying to figure it out, because that's a strange time. So I'm thrilled that we can now move forward, and that's great for our department and our institution. The second thing is, you know, when I got here, Luke Fickle went way out of his way to help me and help me transition and I'll never forget that. So if I'm in any type of position where I can do something similar for somebody, I'll pay that forward, and I'll do that with Scott in any way that I can. And I've already let him know I'm here and I'm available, but I also understand what he's going through. And the third thing, I said 2, I got 3. The third thing is I think Cincinnati's figuring out you go get guys that were born and raised in North Carolina to coach, and things will be just fine. So I do like that he grew up, about an hour from where I was born, and in a lot of the area that I grew up in as well. So I'm sure that when we get a chance to visit, we know a lot of the same people and come from the same part of the country.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.